I know this is going to be maybe a little bit sad, but this is the last one that I will do. The palette roulette has been a video series that I started in 2025, and it is a video series that was born out of requests in the comments where people were like, yeah, but can you do videos with other palettes, like rotate through the collection? And I love this concept. Not only the palette roulette, but also the one where I spin the wheel with the Clionadh shadows, and basically everything where I, before the look starts, don't know what I will get, and then I have to be creative on the spot. That is something that I absolutely enjoy doing. The thing is, this is something that gets requested so much, but that does not show in the video numbers. So the thing is, with a video like this, so I want to explain something here now, because as said, this is now the last palette roulette actually that I will do in this format. I will keep on doing the palette roulettes, but I will not do them as long form videos. I will switch that actually to the shorts format. The same will happen, I don't know in what order I will upload these when I'm filming the intro, but the same will happen to the Clionadh one too, because it's the same story with all of them. I put a lot of effort into these videos. I mean, I feature 3 looks. That means 3 days of filming for me. 3 mornings where I get ready, where I film different looks. Then I do the editing. I do some info searching sometimes, depending on the video type. But at the end, I have 3 days of work in that video plus the editing, and then these are actually my worst performing videos. And I know some people are like, yeah, but you do this out of fun. Yes, I still do. So that's why I'm not cutting these out. I will just switch them to a different format, because I actually think that this is something that works much, much better in a shorts, reel, TikTok, whatever format than in the long form content. No matter what it is, but a content creator cannot free themselves of numbers. So I can't too. And to just not demotivate me, I decided to move this type of video here to the short form content type. So I will keep on with spinning a wheel in that video, but instead of putting in 3 days of effort to get only one video that then gets 100 views, I will still do days like 1 day per palette of effort, but I will put this in a short form content so I actually have a better outcome. And I feel like this is something that people still like to watch. So that for my short explanation. I hope you understand that. In case you're wondering, I'm also sick right now, of course. How else could it be? Every time when I start filming for the Ellamas stuff, I do get sick in between, but it is what it is. But what actually is palette roulette? I do have a app on my phone. It's called Tiny Decisions. I put in all my palettes in there. We spin the wheel, and before every single look, I don't know what I'm going to get. In this video, I will do Artitude Cosmetics Arcana, Natasha, Denona, Retro Glam, and this peacock looking look is the Clionadh Oceano palettes. So they're actually very beautiful palettes in that video. Enjoy the last palette roulette in this long form content, but we will see the videos again next year, but as said, in the short form content. But now let's move to the first spin. Alright, let's spin the wheel here for the very first look, and we're using the Artitude Arcana palette. I'm not mad about this at all. This is a palette that I added this year to my collection. I never used Artitude Cosmetics before that, but I think it is quite obvious why Arcana was chosen as the first one that I wanted to try from them. And I start my look with the shade Magic and use this in my transition area. I feel like in general we had a theme this year with palettes that have a very similar color scheme. I'm thinking of the Gloss Gods Dancing Lights palette. We had the Bella Butebar Coalescence that was a bit darker than this, but also in this more ethereal shimmer vibe formula, not formula, but direction. I do have, by the way, Coalescence here in the back, but when you see the video, I hopefully have tried it already. Something about a color story like this was just very, very well loved in 2025. I now tap into power and I run this through the complete crease and use the lighter one here to blend it better upwards. Then go into hidden and I use this to darken the outer lid part. I now pick up the shade Sorcery and I start to apply this in the center of the lid and then I bring it outwards. But I decided now to use this shade all over the lid. I keep it purple, but I need some contrast here and I take ColourPop's Plum Smash and line the lower line. And then I take hidden and use that to buff it out. I also pick up power again and I use this to just blend it even further down. I'm gonna highlight, I think we have a lot of choices here. Mystery would be a great one. Also Treasure does work very well, but I wanna break the purple a little bit. So I take Arcana and I think I picked up a little bit too much. So let me just apply this now directly on both eyes. And here we have the finished look with the Arcana palette. So in terms of quality, I gave the Arcana back then a 9 out of 10, color story an 8.5, and my personal excitement was at a 9, which makes this an 8.8 out of 10. So honestly, that one is a very solid rating for the palette. I don't remember exactly what I said about the color story, but when I used it, I'm pretty sure that I said something about not being deep enough, because despite using hidden here, I don't think that this eye look is very deep or has a lot of depth when it comes to just, like light and shadow balance on the eye. I personally prefer more deeper looks in general. I do love a light in more ethereal glow looking thing, but I do like to add depth. Again, it is doable, it is workable, but also some of these shades I think are quite, I don't know, redundant to each other. I still like the palette. I think this is a stunning one and I'm very happy that this was my first one from Artitude. Now let's move on to the next wheel. All right, this is now a little bit weird, but I completely fucked up the camera settings, so I have to do a voiceover now. So we're spinning now the wheel for the second look in this video, and it's going to be the Natasha Denona Retro Glam, and I'm fairly excited to use this because this is actually one of my favorite Natasha Denona palettes because of this weird color story, but for whatever reason, it does work very, very well together. And I will do a very obvious look with this. So I start with the shade Holly actually, and that one as you can see, start to blend now on the inner crease part. Then I pick up Fringe, and I'm wondering why my brush looks so weird, but I blend Fringe on the outer part of the crease, and I just see how the time is going. I now pick up Belle, and that one I blend again on the inner crease part to just deepen. This voiceover is so weird. And now, what am I going to do? Oh yeah, I take the color Sage, and you can probably guess I use this to deepen up the outer crease bit. And I'm just so impressed how well this blends and how well this covers. But I need darkness, so I take Evergreen, this weird cream to powder shade that I absolutely hate the formula of, you know that. But I do kind of like the way it works that way as an outer corner deepening shade. So next up, I go into Oz, apply this beautiful shimmer on the outer half of the lid, and then I go into Flare, a beautiful darker metal pink, and that one, I don't know what I'm saying here in the video, but that one I apply on the inner part. So now for liner, I take the Natasha Denona Macro Tech Crayon in the shade Taupe. I do line my waterline with that, and then I pick up more of Evergreen, smudge that on the lower lash line, and then I go into Jazz, That one I apply on top and just blend it together nicely. And next up, what am I going to do next? I think of what I'm going to do. I take Faye and I use Faye just to buff it out a little bit better. Then I take the shade Flutter. That one acts here as my inner corner highlight, as you can see here. Now let's talk about the palette itself, the Retro Glam palette. I gave this a quality ranking of 9.5 out of 10, color story an 8 out of 10, and personal excitement a 9 out of 10. So in total, this scored an 8.8 out of 10 in my collection, which is a fairly good ranking. And whenever I use the Natasha Denona Retro Glam palette, this is really, really surprising me because I mean, look at this eye, look. It does have a Christmas vibe for sure. It is not Christmas coded for me, and that is what I always said when I use this because I think this came out as a holiday palette. But I see it. I do love this minty tones in there. I'm really liking the look. I like the combos. The biggest critique that I always have with Natasha Denona is just the fact that they're lacking depth. And I think I can end the voiceover now because the next clip will have regular tone again. Let's spin now for the last look of this last palette roulette, and we're doing Clionadh Oceano. Definitely not festive or Christmassy, but I think we can do a nice look. I don't know, I try to maybe avoid the oranges. We will see. I just, as always, just let it roll. The palette is in general quite dark to begin with, so I actually start with Manta Ray, and I use this directly here in the crease. So we're going full on in. With a fluffier brush, I pick up Lagoon. These mattes are very, very intense pigmented. I mean, do you see that? I use Lagoon on the outer parts of that first shade, and it is kind of covering some of these darker bits. The Clionadh Matte Eyeshadow formula is indeed a very, very good one. And now I go into Undertow, and I use this to deepen the outer lid. I now tap into Urchin, and I apply this on the outer half of my lid. I said I want to avoid the oranges, but honestly I feel like this would give a really cool contrast. So I go into Mauna Loa and I use this now on the inner part. Liner would be a little bit too much because I'm honest with you, I'm not that happy with the eye look right now. I didn't plan to go on so peacocky, but it is what it is now. So I do take Undertow now, Undertow, and smudge that on the lower lash line. Then I take Lagoon and use that to buff it out. But now I'm looking at myself and think, yeah, I definitely need a liner, but let's take something more neutral. I take the Makeup by Mario one in taupe and just line the waterline because that little flash stripe here looks really awful. That's better. Like, it's just taupe, it's nothing, but it looks better. And for the inner corner highlight, I take Bioluminescence and I just roughly pag it on. Love that shade. That's one of my favorite from Clionadh in general. And here we have now the finished look. I decided to not wear anything for the lips because I don't know if you can hear it, but of course between look 2 and today where I did look 3, I got sick and my nose is stuffed and my throat is hurting. But yeah, I don't feel like doing lips extra because everything makeup is just annoying me right now, but you know, all for the video. The Oceano palette from Clionadh, I rated this in terms of quality at a 9. I mean, obviously, the color story is also a 9 because it is basically working since these are mostly complementary shades that are combined, and the combo of the different tones of blue, they do just work. And my personal excitement for this though is at an 8 because of the olive greens here. And overall, this palette scored an 8.7 in my collection. So here we had the last palette roulette, at least in this format. So I now want to know, what was your favorite look? To be honest, I think the retro glam was my favorite look. Whenever I pull out Natasha Denona's retro glam, there is just something very, very special about that. I really, really like the palette. I like it more than I initially thought. So I think that was my favorite look. We will do this format as said next year, of course, but I will switch it to the shorts format. And if you can't have enough now, there is an Ellamas playlist linked down below, so make sure to check the videos out if you haven't yet. Otherwise, please make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out any of the other Ellamas videos, and I see you very, very soon, actually tomorrow.